Hello people, I'm Jaby KOAY, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
What's up?
This is our review for DRISHYAM 2, The Resumption. So we'll start off with non-spoilers and then migrate over into spoilers. The non-spoiler section will be quite brief, and then we'll get right down to brass tacks and break this bottle open of champagne love, you know? DRISHYAM 2, I had seen DRISHYAM 1, ACHARA had not.
Yes.
And she read the
Wikipedia page.
Wikipedia page. The word Abu Dhabi popped into my head. I'm like, why is that word there? I have no idea. A gripping tale of an investigation and a family which is threatened by it. Will George Kuti be able to protect his family this time? This is written and directed by Jeethu Joseph, starring Mohanlal, Mahna, and Ansiba, as well as Esther Anil, Siddiqui, Asha, Sharath, Sai Kumar, and a lot of other people.
Yes.
I've got gum in my mouth.
Yeah.
And it started rolling, and I was like, well, I'll just make this work. So, I actually appreciated this film more than the first one. I thought that this was better cinematically, better character-wise, better story, all around it was more compelling. As a whole, I thought it was a better movie. Now, what I will say in contrast to the first film is, after the halfway point in the first film, it kicked off into a fifth gear, and it like kind of grabbed you by the throat and didn't let go for the rest of the movie in a way that I felt like was lacking here. Like, this sort of like has the same momentum through the entire film. It does get more interesting after the midway point, but I don't feel like it sped up dramatically or got more intense like the way that the first one did. But just all around, like, this had me more engaged. I found the characters more interesting. I thought the way it was shot, the colors, cinematography, I thought it felt much more realistic and much more researched than the first film in terms of like, look, what the little details, the fine details of maybe I don't understand it, but they seem to understand it and it feels real kind of thing. Like, what's his name talks about that, Sorkin talks about that. He's like, your audience doesn't have to know what they're saying. The characters have to know what they're saying. The characters have to, it's like...
It's when you have jargon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so all the stuff they were talking about in the film, all the like, the minutia of criminal investigation, all that stuff, and the, what do you call it?
Like the law, the way the law works.
Yeah, all that stuff.
All that stuff,
the bureaucracy of it all. I'm like, oh, this feels like they really did their research and it wasn't just made up. It might be just made up, but it feels like they really did their research. In terms of a successor to what was already like a well-received film, I'm like, this is like The Godfather 2 insofar as it actually bested the previous one.
Okay.
You know, I thought that it's very rare when you have a situation like that. Dark Knight versus Batman Begins is another situation. It's like, it's not often you have a sequel that all around seems to be a better movie than the first one. And this feels like a genuine continuation of the story, as opposed to we're just gonna capitalize on, you know, big bucks, you know.
Yeah, because I was concerned about that when we watched the trailer, because I was like, what more can you do
a lot, apparently,
with the story? And they really proved that you can do a lot. So well done.
Yeah, so all around, I appreciated this. I appreciated the performances here, and the character work and whatnot. There was some stuff where I was like, I don't know why we're doing this, and I hope it pays off. And because of the first film, I'm like, I'm sure it'll pay off. Yeah. And then it just doesn't. Oh. So that happens sometimes. There were things that were in there to set up for things later on. But
I felt that they did a really good job with that, where a lot of the things you're like, okay, I see that they've mentioned this thing, so now they're gonna pay it off, and they did. So that made me happy.
A lot, but there were instances that they spent a lot of time on something that went nowhere.
Okay.
And that, it bothered me, but overall I came out of that going, oh, actually, I like that. I like that more than the first one. Cool. That was my feeling at the end of it. And so we're gonna go into spoilers.
Okay.
Because I don't think that we can say much more without giving too much away. I don't want to take a chance that it's gonna upset people. Oh, you gave away. So we're going into spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the film yet, you should watch that and come back to this section of the review.
Super highly rated on IMDb.
Yeah. So I want to let you go first because I already had a review of the first movie, and I have spoken the most in this review so far.
Right.
So you go ahead. You had feelings. You got lots of feelings. That's what you said on the couch.
Yeah, a lot of mixed feelings, in fact. And I don't know if it's just because, I'm not as familiar with the first film, obviously, because I didn't watch it. And also, not being super familiar with this region's movies, the Malayalam movies, it did feel super different from Kumbalangi Nights, which, you know, that's a completely different film, right? And it's a different genre and everything. But I really liked the acting, like you said, and I appreciated like how they really thought through the story. And the kind of what the heck moments were really great because I didn't see a lot of that stuff coming. You know, like it was just really satisfying when you're watching a movie like this, which is, I don't know what you would call the genre, like I guess
it's a crime
drama, yeah.
Crime genre, yeah.
Yeah, crime drama, crime genre, and it's really satisfying when you get those, oh my god moments, and there were several of them and I didn't see them coming, so that was really, really great, you know, because
this is drama thriller, but yeah,
drama thriller,
really,
yeah,
yeah, really great, and so
yeah, so it was really great because, like, it's already established from the first film that he managed to save his family, right, the first time because of his smarts, and then this second time, when at the end, you know, he lets the police catch him, I was like, is this the moral of the story? Is the moral of the story that you can't commit a crime and get away with it, even if, you know, your intentions are to help your family? So at first I thought, okay, that's kind of the moral question that they're posing and that they're answering in the movie. But then to have it be like, oh no, like, he really, really planned it so well. Yeah. Like the thing with the book, I was floored. I was literally just like, what the hell? That was completely brilliant. And everybody just kind of played to his plan because he's that smart. Yeah. So that was really satisfying. I did feel that a lot of the film was very expositional. Yeah. And it was just a lot of talking and telling rather than showing. And so I don't know if they could have done it any different than that.
I did sense that as well, especially in the first act of the film. Yeah. That like, she's like, you went into this and then you went into this and then you went into this. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, as an American viewer, it does feel exorbitantly expositional. Yeah. You know, however, I'm not listening to this in its native tongue, meaning I don't know exactly what they're saying. Like I pointed out while we were watching it, we have a watch along, by the way, if you want to watch the film with us. As I pointed out there, we're watching a perfunctory version of the subtitles. It's not really conveying all the emotions that you could possibly get, so there might be more nuances.
Yeah, like the subtext and everything.
There might be a lot of that, and whoever subtitled this thing was like, it's fine. And just like made it the most, whatever they could get to just communicate the basic feeling across, that's what they did. Yeah. And so I have no idea if it was just expositional or if that was the subtitler who made that decision. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Because it could have been more nuanced. And the only reason I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt in that regard is that there were instances in the film that had nuance. Like there was the three uncles sitting around talking about George Clooney. I'm saying his name wrong. And the guy on the far right was like, what was he doing? And the dude in the middle was like, and he goes back to the thing. It's like, that's a moment where he didn't say shit, but you got a lot out of that. And so because the film was capable of that, Jeethu Joseph, because he's capable of having those moments without any words, I feel like it's at least somewhat possible that some stuff got lost in translation. That being said, they also set up that the wife is just a yappity yapper. You know, she just keeps yapping and she's like such an annoying character, you know, because it's like all she does is she's just a foil, honestly. Like she's just creating issues in the film that then Mohanlal has to go and solve. And I'm like, God damn, like just shut up. You have one job, just shut up. And so there's a lot of stuff in the first, I was already expecting the first hour or so to do a lot of exposition and setting up and whatnot. Right. And the thing is, I kind of prepped myself going into it going, well, in the first movie, they did that and there were things that came back. But truth be told, there was a lot of dialogue in the first half of the first movie where I'm like, I didn't hold on to all that. And it didn't seem to come up later on. What came up later on was the fact that he owned this video store basically and watched movies all day long, and like that informed his creativity was sorting out some bullshit later on. Right. And so the first half just had a lot of stuff going on, and I'm like, all right, cool. Where's this going? Nowhere. It doesn't come back up. Like she's just on his back about all this shit just to set up locations, just to set up what he's done. He's got the CCTV thing going on. It's like, you didn't need 45 minutes of setup to communicate to me, the audience, that he's got CCTV everywhere. Like, off of the first movie, I get it. I get why he would have CCTV everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
I totally agree with you. And it's like, there were things in that first half that I thought maybe it could have been truncated just a little bit more and we wouldn't have lost any of that sense. Like, we get that his youngest daughter is kind of, you know, being spied on by that guy that she has a crush on.
And which never came back.
Which never came back.
Yeah.
And then also that the neighbors were also spying on them. That was a really cool twist.
I like that.
I didn't see coming. I was like, holy crap, this goes really deep.
Yeah.
You know, and like the more interesting stuff definitely happened in the latter half, and I didn't feel like we needed to spend all that much time
in the first half,
because the characters were so well established already.
Yeah, I liked the music in the film for the most part. There were instances though that things began to feel melodramatic.
Yeah,
it's like the music pushing in and whatnot. There was a scene where the wife thought that they were what do you call it, exhuming bodies at the cemetery because she didn't know where George Clooney buried the body. Again, I apologize for saying his name wrong. And so she's like, you gotta come home right away. And so she's walking into the house and the camera's like pushing in on her. She walks into a room and the camera's pushing in on her. She walks into another room, the camera's pushing. It's like the same thing over and over again to like overemphasize this dramatic moment. And I'm like, calm down, movie. It's all right, like we get it. She's being panicky, you know, and getting him all riled up and whatnot. There were some instances where things felt a little contrived in that regard, in terms of like
the bum bum.
Yeah, that stuff. It was just a little bit melodramatic. Speaking of contrived, the film mainly only had one coincidence, which I liked, because there's a lot of films out there where it has a bunch of coincidences, like how characters all know each other somehow, and it makes the world feel way too small. And so the only coincidence was the thing that set up the movie, which is the guy who was running from the police happened to be going by the evening that he was burying a body at the police station as it was being built, right? That was the only coincidence in the entire film, and I thought that was great because very easily, you know, it's very easy to give into the temptation to have coincidences everywhere, because then there's like plot twists everywhere like that, and I'm glad they didn't do that. Am I making sense there? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Because like at least the thing that sets it into motion is one thing that he had no control over.
Right.
But his character is so smart that he's able to kind of think ahead to all eventualities.
And anticipate.
That is something that is very likely to happen.
The scenes, that scene where the guy, I don't know his name. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I don't know his name. The guy who was running from the cops, and he was in jail for 6 years.
Yeah.
That dude. The scene where I saw it coming, where he was gonna realize his opportunity to get money.
Yeah.
By turning in Mohanlal. Like, I like the way that stuff was shot, because you can. Jeethu Joseph did this thing that I appreciate, where he doesn't. It's like. He's sort of a contradictory director, because there are instances where he's like pushing in really melodramatically, and I'm like, dude, like you're good at this. Why are you doing this? Because that scene at the tea shop.
Yes.
There's this wide shot.
That was
you see these people talking on the left side of the screen. You see the shop owner over here.
And
you
then
see the dude come in, and you got the door there, and it's the way it was shot was so cool because it was just sort of letting you feel the tension. It was letting you do the work as the audience and sort of putting it together what was coming. And so you sort of felt smart as the audience, going, oh, I see where this is going. I know what's gonna happen. And it makes you feel like Sherlock Holmes as you're watching the film. And it's not easy for a film to do that. It's not easy for a film to sort of lead you so carefully that it does this Inception thing where you go, oh, and you start to connect the dots.
Yeah, and that's perfect in the crime thriller or crime drama genre, because you want to have enough stuff where the audience puts two and two together and they go, oh, I feel smart. Yeah. But then you also want enough things that are a surprise that, you know, you kind of catch the audience off guard. For example, when we watched Kahani 2, that was just nonsensical because all of those aha moments were not properly set up
Right.
Right? Whereas this...
Everything was set up.
Everything was set up,
Yeah.
you know? So you're like, oh my God, that's so genius.
Right.
Why didn't I see that? That's fantastic.
Right.
So it felt really good.
I was a little bit confused with how... Just a little bit confused with how they arrived at the conclusions that they did towards the end. Like, okay, so wait. The cops saw the book and then they made up this thing to harass this family again. And I'm like, is the court system that goofy? Is it that much of a circus act? You know what I'm saying?
But like their evidence was inconclusive. If he had not succeeded in replacing the skeleton,
right,
then they wouldn't have had a leg to stand on.
It's a pretty elaborate plan.
Yeah,
especially for a normal guy, right?
But I mean, they even pointed that out too because, you know, I forget who said
the
to
judge.
him. Yeah, it was like it required a certain level of luck. I think it was the writer. I'm not sure. It was like, yeah, it's risky because he could have failed at putting switching out the skeletons, but he was lucky and he succeeded and he was willing to take that risk.
I really don't like that he left a letter with the body at the end of the movie. I thought that was stupid. It's like, you went through all this to get around getting caught just to put out hard evidence that you did this.
I mean, I doubt he signed it.
It was very obvious where that was coming.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just wish that he hadn't, like, him leaving the body where he did, with whom to contact. That was the ashes.
Yeah.
That was enough. He didn't need to have a letter in there.
Yeah, I guess so. But the conceit is that family, the boy's family, already knows. So, but it's like they just can't prove it. But I think
that letter they can.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make one last point about that. I liked how it ended because it wasn't this, you know, Hollywood, Bollywood ending that you might get sometimes where it's like everything just wraps up in a neat bow and the hero gets away. It's like, no, the hero has to live with this shit.
That's exactly...
The hero has to live with this shit. It's from our Indian food earlier. The hero, no, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Tamarind sauce, yeah.
The hero has to live with this afterwards, and so do the villains of the story. And I thought that was actually a very interesting ending, that there's this sort of unresolved feeling afterwards. It's like, yeah, you went through all this, but you don't feel great. It's like you won, but did you win? Because you're still dealing with this.
Well, it's interesting that we're watching this film while we're also watching the anime Death Note in our spare time, because it also presents a similar moral dilemma.
A conundrum.
A conundrum, right? Because in Death Note, Light, the kid in the series, he starts off by killing bad guys, right? And he feels justified. In this case, you know, Mohanlal's daughter accidentally kills a guy who was trying to do a horrible thing to her. But then the question is like, who are we to then like just kill people, right? Even if they're bad people, like you've murdered someone, and then in the first movie they get away with it. But then I think in this one, like you said, I appreciate that they kind of have that moral thing where it's like, yeah, you know, maybe they're not being punished by the judicial system and by the law, but they are being punished because they're going to be looking over their shoulders for the rest of their lives, and they have to live with that. And in much the same way, like, yeah, so the boy's family kind of gets peace, right? Because they get his remains and they're able to do the funeral rites that they want to do. But also they have to live with the fact that they raised a pretty shitty human being.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The guy who plays, oh gosh, I don't know his name. The main cop in the film who looks like Powers Booth. I liked him. I thought he was cool.
Yeah, he was good.
As an actor. I mean, all around the cast was pretty cool in this movie, honestly. Like, I thought that they all did a good job. The only one I had issues with was probably the wife. Because, and I don't know, I think it's just the way she was written more than anything. It's just, she was just kind of like shrilly. You know, and just as a character, it's like, really, you are not contributing any source of happiness in this movie.
Well, yeah, she was just really naggy.
Yeah.
And then just like, dude, why are you creating problems? You just had to not talk about it to anyone.
The one thing that the first film had over this one, I would say, besides the fact that the second half felt like it had so much more momentum and strength over the first half, is that I think, if I recall correctly, you got a lot more time with the family through the adventure. Whereas in this film, they sort of just went to the
Yeah, they were
back
just
burner.
kind of
Like,
sidelined.
you just like, this is not important. This is just like Mohanlal dealing with this craziness, and then that was it, as opposed to his family being part of him sorting all this stuff out.
Right.
But it's fine. Like, all around, like I said, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was cool. I came out liking it more than I anticipated I would, and I liked it more than the first film. So there's that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this interview. Let us know your feelings in the comments below.
It's not an interview, say that again.
Why did I say that? We're doing interviews left, right, and center, so that's on my brain. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, and thanks so much for hanging out with us, and hopefully you enjoyed some of it. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon, all notifications, and hang out with us on our live stream, youtube.com/JabyLive.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Exactly, because you didn't know that you could do that. I'm Jaby KOAY, this is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.